Hello, welcome back. My name's Andrew or Andy. I'm standing on the front part of my house. Those of you who watch my videos, of course, you're going to recognize it. This, I'm hoping, is going to be my home for many, many years. We're in rural Algarve. Oh, it's a lovely May afternoon. Little bit windy, perfect temperature. It is going to go up from now on. But I thought in this video that I would do something slightly different to my previous videos and future videos, because we've had a couple of issues back at the house that we're renovating. And so, although we've been doing a bit of videoing, I was going to pop it into this video. I thought, no, do a separate one and we'll put that into the next video. So before I carry on, say thank you very much for those who watched my last video, realizing that we were just having a little bit of fun putting that cement around the window frames and door frames. Just a bit of fun. We really needed to let off a little bit of steam. Now, James has already finished around the windows and the door. Looks really good. So I'm looking forward to showing you that in the next video. So watch out for it. So in this video, as we've had the problems in the village, I thought perfect timing to inject a bit of reality into what it's like to buy a house here in the Algarve, to do a renovation project like this. I get a lot of questions, not just from the comment section in my videos, but also via email and messenger, and there are a lot of reoccurring questions as well. And I think there might be a little misconception from some people about prices in particular. So I thought I'd see if I can cover from moving to the Algarve, buying the properties, what it's really like to renovate a house, live on a plot of land like this, hopefully cover all of those questions. And for those of you that weren't asking, I'm hoping it might just fill in a few gaps and hopefully make my videos going forward a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to be winging this a little bit, ad-libbing. I haven't got much time because I want to continue with the next video down at the house. So we'll see how we get on and hopefully you'll get something out of it. And thank you very much for watching. So let's start with house prices, because that's a reoccurring theme with a lot of the questions that I get. And I guess I understand why people would assume that prices here would be a lot cheaper than you may expect. But there has to be some reality and realism to this. My house here is one example. You know the price I paid for that because it was an earlier video. And I do get comments from people saying, I want to live in a house like yours, I want to live in an area like you, I want to do what you're doing. Can you find me somewhere or guide me where the best areas are to buy a house for 30,000 euros? Well, as you know, I paid a lot more for this house than 30,000 euros. So how I would be able to find anything like this for less, if I did, then I'd be living in it, that's for sure. So that really is a reality that needs to be readjusted, I think. Outside of the Algarve, if you're going up into central Portugal or away from cities or popular areas or the beachfront, yes, you can probably find places as low as 10,000, to be honest with you. But would you want to live in those areas? That's a question that only you can answer. Here I have good access to shops, the doctors, all major things that I need, and I'm a good distance from the airport and the beaches. But if you're in some of the other areas that aren't close to any of those things, you might struggle with a few things. And also loneliness is a key factor as well. I'm very fortunate because I have my brother living here. But even if he wasn't, I would feel quite comfortable here because the village has a really nice cafe in it. And a guy in there, Luis, who I bring up in my videos, I get on really well with, and he's a really nice guy, and he's given me some tips and information as well. And if you can get that within a village, knowing that people look after them, each other, and look out for you, and you get a real village bonding mentality, something that I'm not used to because I'm not from a village previously to this, living here in the Algarve. I was realizing, and I perhaps wouldn't have realized it before, that having that hub, that central hub, as well as all the amenities, is really important. So if I was stuck in the middle of nowhere, I would really struggle. But also as well, I know there are a few people that are surprised that I enjoy the safari tours coming through here, or people cutting across my land. But that's part of it, because there's a sign of life. And so I don't feel isolated, and it suits me. So yes, if you want to buy somewhere cheap outside the Algarve, possible, but not here in the Algarve, because it is a sought after part of the world at the end of the day. It has fantastic weather. Some want to retire here, some want to do what I'm doing, some want to renovate and sell. Whatever the reasons are, it can sometimes look a lot easier than it is, and I'll go into that in a second. But be realistic with the prices is what I would say. And if you go on Idealista and do a sweep across the Algarve and outside of the Algarve, you'll get a much better feel for the prices of the properties. Buying a house here in the Algarve really isn't any more complicated than buying in the UK, say. It's the same sort of process, and of course it is one of the biggest things that you're ever going to purchase in your life. And I also understand that not everyone buys a property regularly and may only do it once or twice in their life, so it is going to be quite stressful. So the really important thing to do is to make sure that in buying that house you make your life as stress-free as possible, and that does mean that you have to rely on certain things. The most obvious one is to make sure that you have a good lawyer or solicitor who will go over everything you need to know in order to buy that property, and make sure that you are more than aware of the boundaries of that properties, what you're able to do to that properties, and whether those properties are legal or not. And that seems like a fairly obvious thing, but I guess maybe to some there's an excitement in buying it and being in a different country that you may slip in those areas. I personally would not take any advice from an estate agent. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but in the UK, for instance, we hold estate agents up to the same high esteem as politicians and traffic wardens. You wouldn't trust them as far as you could throw them. So I would say use that here as well. Don't be negative about them, don't be rude, be polite. They are just trying to sell you a property, but they aren't going to know all the questions, and they may just make a few things up. So make sure, this is the next point, that you know the boundaries. I also know of a lot of people, because of the comments that I get from people who want to or have seen a plot of land and they think they can just shove something like I've done, a bus on there or a mobile home, and just live on it. And that really isn't something that I would recommend, because you could be paying cheap money for it, and that could be the enticement for it. But pretty soon you'll realize that without electricity and water, that you're not actually allowed to live on that bit of land anyway. With ruins as well, there may well be a ruin and you think that you can build a property on it, but if that ruin is below a certain height of wear and tear, you might discover that there is no way that you're allowed to build on it, in which case you've lost all your money, and then if you want to pass it on and sell it yourself, you'll probably make a huge loss. And given that it is one of the bigger expensive that we have in our lives, it's worth to do a little bit of research in that area to make sure that you are able to do what you want to that property, but also be more than aware of what the boundaries are on that property and what is legal. So you found your dream home. You now have worked out exactly what you're buying. You know the boundaries, you know what you can and can't do to that house. The next step is the promissory, which is the exchange. Now that's normally 10% of the value of the property. So that will involve both parties getting together with the lawyers and signing a document, passing some money across. By now I'm hoping you're feeling a little bit relieved, because you're one step closer to getting the keys to that house, and I feel it for you. Now if you pull out, you're going to lose your deposit. That's a given. If the owners, on the other hand, pull out, they have to give you back that deposit, the 10%, but also that very same amount again on top. So it's in everyone's interests to just go with it and get this resolved. So your lawyer solicitor at this point will now get all the documents in place, making sure that everything is there ready. And when they're happy that's done, they'll book an appointment with the notary. The notary is where you're going to do the deeds, the completion. So you're all happy with the date, you all turn up armed with your passport, your NIF or fiscal number, which is the equivalent of a national insurance number, making sure you have that banker's check or you're going to transfer it. You then sit down in a room, you'll read everything that's in the deeds, and if you don't speak Portuguese, you'll have a translator there and they will read it through. If you're all happy with it, both parties will sign it, keys will be exchanged, you give them the money, voila, you've got yourself your dream home. But before you leave, 3 payments, unfortunately, and this is where I fall flat on my face because I can't remember what one of them is, but there are 3. One of them is for the notary, and in our case with the house in the village, it was around about €600. Then there's an equivalent sort of stamp duty, I guess, and what is the other one? I'll just say IVA for the sake of it, but it is something. It's a tax of some form, and you'll pay that there and then. Then you can run off to the house, cry that you spent all that money, but then rejoice in the fact that you have yourself a beautiful house and relax. Brilliant. So one thing that might be of some interest to you is when I moved out here, I decided, because I'm no good at paperwork, to ask my solicitor to deal with my residency, my fiscal, my NIF number, which is the national insurance number, and all the other little bits and pieces that are really boring, including the water and the electricity. Water, by the way, is through the camera, and electricity is through other companies. And she did that in one afternoon, basically just walked me around, trotted me around, and I just got my cash out and card out when I needed to, and it was all dealt with. Made my life a lot easier, so I could then fully concentrate on where the hell am I going to buy building materials from, or what the hell am I doing? I've just bought this house and I got no experience. What am I doing? Gave me an opportunity to focus on that and not worry about the silly little things. And did cost a little bit more, but it was definitely worth it. Brexit, don't know anything about because I moved out here before that. I do know that my residency, the 5-year residency, ran out at that time of Brexit, and I had a meeting booked to get the permanent residency, and then that was cancelled, and I haven't heard a thing since. But I do have a digital document on the phone, so if GNR stop me, I can show it to them. You need that and your passport and your driving license. And mine, by the way, is Portuguese now, but my passport is English because I'm not a citizen. I'm planning on being a permanent resident. Anyway, there you go. So almost over with the rambling. Sorry if I'm going on. I hope this video hasn't been too boring for you. I hope you've actually got something useful out of it. But there is one last thing that I want to tackle, and I'll try and make it brief, and that is the reason actually that I wanted to make this video, because as you know, we had a little bit of a problem on the house with the builders, and I thought I just wanted to bring a little bit of reality to renovating here in the Algarve. It's difficult enough renovating anyway, but in a different country with a different language, in an area you don't know the rules and regulations, it can get quite wary. And when you're working in the house and living in it or around it, and you can't step away from it, and you've got deadlines, learning what you're doing as you're going along, it can get quite stressful. And I've learned the hard way, really learned the hard way, and I've had a lot of highs and lows. It's made me a better person, but you have to have balls of steel when you're doing this. Keep arrogance and cockiness to one side, and determination is what you need. And yeah, I've had a real go. I've been run down quite a few times, and I've had to basically cut my social life out and just focus on what I was doing just to get to here. Now, I started off on the bottom run. I wasn't privileged to have any form of huge amounts of money coming out here. I had to start from scratch. Now, I do have this house, and we are working on a house in the village, but we do have all eggs in one basket, so we've got to hope that this works, and it will do. And going forward, I'm probably going to have to continue this, so my YouTube channel will be on that house, this house, and probably more. So I hope you can join me on that. It's going to be fun. But one day maybe it will all work out good and I can retire at some stage. Probably not, but we'll see how it goes. So anyway, if you're planning on doing this, good luck, but heed my warning, it isn't easy in any way, especially if you're planning on doing it yourself, but it can be very rewarding. And I'm very fortunate that with all the experiences that I've had out here, it's made me the person that I am now. I'm happy, I'm content, I'm proud of what I've done, and I am positive. And I really hope that comes across in my videos, because that is one of the reasons why I want to make these videos, to just share a bit of positivity. Because let's face it, every time we turn on the TV, it's all negative, isn't it? Divide, divide, divide. And so if I can just offer a little bit of relief, then I've done my job. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Back to the normal videos on Saturday. And until then, stay happy, stay positive, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.